Now I would like to give the floor to Councillor Sunny Lambe. And I think I introduced you earlier, Sunny, but let me introduce you again. We as diaspora, if I call myself diaspora, if I talk as a diaspora, as academic or as whatever, British Black, we are very proud of you, Sunny. You are an example, I think, very good, like wanted to bring into this platform. Every year we try to bring good examples of diaspora who justify this project back in 2009 with UNESCO. The British Parliament like what we do. Now they are listening to the diaspora. You are highly academics. You are a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. You have an MBA. You also a fellow of the Royal Society of Art. So you are also you represent us as an academic. You have a very good component of academics. You also a very good businessman. You have led initiatives. You are leading business in London, but also as a policymaker or as a politician, you are well known within the Black or the diaspora community as a leader in, you are leading the labor movement, the Black labor movement. But above all, you have managed to do all this, showing the real character of human being. Because when people, they respected you, they do not respected you for your color, but they respected you for the way you behave, the way you conduct yourself. Within all these three hats, if I call you, academic, professionals, policymakers, and business, you have succeeded because of the way you discipline yourself, the way you manage, the way you lead, the way you talk to people. And that's what we always say. It's not about diaspora. We are British, but we will not gain that respect within the society unless we really do or adhere to the values of our nationality. Now, you have been in all these fronts, so I think I'm looking forward, together with many people, to listen to you, and I'm sure your talk will touch on all these three at least elements of who you are. So the floor is yours, Dr. Sunny Lambe.
Thank you very much. Salam alaikum. Peace be unto you and everybody that is listening. It's a great privilege to be, to be here. And thank you so much, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great privilege and honor to be speaking at this year's 18th International Annual Conference of the World Association for Sustainable Development, and also the 8th International Annual Diaspora Conference. Thank you to the organizers, especially yourself, Professor Alam. I mean, I really feel a bit embarrassed when you raise me so high, and I hope I can live up to that, into that stool you place me on. And of course, it's a great privilege to also meet my sister, Mona. Adam, thank you so much. I mean, it's I really prefer, to be honest with you. Of course, my presentation is going to be less academic, but perhaps a bit political and thought-provoking, as well. I mean, my sister mentioned stakeholders' involvement earlier, especially women empowerment. I mean, before I delved into some part of my presentation this afternoon, I just want to say that women don't need empowerment. They already have the power. Men, we just need to see them as our partners, not somebody behind, but as our partners, hand in hand, working together. Because when we fail to recognize and acknowledge the importance of women, especially when women constitute 50 or more than 50% of the world population, what are we missing? We're missing their contribution. And no wonder the world is in a mess. As the high time, we men start taking women seriously. We are not partners, and we need to recognize that. We are not competitors, I was going to say. We are not competitors. And women have more to offer. Even I remember growing up, because I want to dive in a bit. I remember when I was growing up, I grew up in a very traditional African, environment. I grew up with my granddad, and I'm glad, even though I didn't like it at the time, I'm glad I actually spent some time with my granddad, because a chief, actually, a lot of people didn't know, in 1893, my great-great-grandfather was actually a king who actually signed protectorate agreement with the British. I think 23rd of August or something like that. Fijabi the first, because I'm from the Fijabi royal lineage. even though we don't use that name because Ibadan, where I come from, everybody just bear his own dad's name. That's that's free with you. You pick your dad's name rather than your granddad's, if you know what I mean. So that's why a lot of people don't see me, like that. So, and I watch him, how he respected his, sorry, he got a few wives, but I only got one. So I still have catching up to do on that. And I saw the relationship between him and his wives, how is especially during our fest, because my granddad used to have plantation, cocoa, coffee, and so on. And then how the women had is what we call division of labor. Everybody have their own role to play. It's not because one is subservient to the other. So therefore, we need to rediscover that as I know, as a race, especially we people of African origin. We need to start doing that. So women are not subservient at all. They're not at the back seat. And we started, realizing that. So now coming back to, I just thought I should put that in the front. Sorry, Professor Alan, you have to forgive me for that. So now coming back to the topic of today, what I want to talk about is the importance of stakeholders involvement in especially when it comes to sustainable involvement, engagement and involvement in sustainable development. We also touches upon what we just said, women are part of the stakeholders we're talking about. And if we then ignore the importance and the contributions of women, what are we doing? Then we are failing. And no wonder most of the things we do are actually failing. So therefore, as a British, African, and Nigerian who has keen interest in human and community development at all levels, whether it's at the local, national, or international for a few decades. So much of projects I've set up over the past few decades. Indeed, my MBA, which also touched on African Common Market by the year 2000, also touched importance of the role of women, the role of youth, empowering ourselves, even, in terms of self-economic empowerment in Africa. Funny enough, some of my recognition are actually African Common Market, African Union, and so on and so on. Imagine when some people thought you were crazy when you are doing all these things, especially when there were now enough, now you can do everything online, you can do your research, but that wasn't available then. And then all of a sudden, something people thought you were crazy when you were doing for your MBA is now, everybody is now getting mad about it. It means you're actually ahead of your time. So, and these are the things I've done. And I didn't headed up to start of I remember first organization I set up, Confederation of African Professional UK, which was set up in October 1998, is bringing Africans in diaspora together so that we can start, talking about issues affecting our continent, ourselves in this country, and also building our own stakeholders and see how we can use knowledge gain over here, develop, and then we can use it for the betterment of our people in Africa and around the world. So that's how I got involved in community development. So therefore, whether you are operating at local, regional, or national level, the principle and importance of stakeholder engagement is still exactly the same. It just, of course, the way we apply will be different from one community to another. And that's why the local content, the local environment is extremely important, why we should understand it as policymakers. So it's about principle of carrying everyone along on the journey we're about to take, whether on a new project development, electoral reform, building a new hydroelectric dam, school, low-cost housing, railway lines, new superhighway, hospital, nuclear power station, or even indeed in the case of my London regional government, for instance, the new Bakerloo line, which is a new development, is about carrying people along with you. It's also good to talk to all the stakeholders, both internal and external, such as immediate local residents, neighboring countries, trade unions, contractors, funders, local and international pressure groups, who may be affected either positively or negatively by the new development. And that's where also women come into being as well. Women, young people, we're talking about women. They are stakeholders, big stakeholders. And if we leave half of the stakeholders, then we are talking to ourselves. And no wonder we always find people of, big objection to development, because the people we need to take along with us, we fail to do that. And as far as I know, as a professional person, any of us who fail to do that, to consult the real people that be affected, we are failing as professionals, in my opinion. We are failing. And we need to ask ourselves, What are we doing wrong? So therefore, yeah, it's good to talk to all these key stakeholders, and therefore, so stakeholder engagement is should be an integral and even overarching principle of meeting any of the 17 sustainable UN sustainable development goals. Because if we take our stakeholders for granted, we can't meet them, because we already taken half or more than half of the population for granted. And these are people we need to carry along on that journey. So it must be an integral part of all aspects of our concept, planning, management, implementation, and review process of any new projects. Why? Getting it right means half of our problem is solved. Alternatively, getting it wrong becomes the biggest nightmare of our life, especially when you look at if I give an example of London, for instance, did you know the new, the development of Haygate, the big estate very close to Elephant and Castle, started in 1999, 2000. They just building it now in the last 2 years. So it's about 15, 20 years late. Why? This kind of lesson we need to learn, because it's not just finance alone. Maybe finance is part of it, but stakeholders involvement, stakeholders holding up, saying, no, we don't like this. No, we don't like this development. What are we going to benefit from it? What's in there for me? All these aspects need to be looked at and tackled seriously, because if we don't, we're missing the point. So it is also similar to HS2, the rail network, which is now being proposed by the government. Look at how long it's been taking. Or may I even dare say the abandoned Boris Johnson, former London Mayor's pet project, the Garden Bridge. Look at how much millions were spent on the Garden Bridge. And then very close to you, Mona, because you live in that area, isn't it? Look at how much they spent and look at how much wasted, and then eventually the new mayor said, sorry, we don't want it, it's too costly, we don't need it, abandoned. But imagine if the stakeholders had been consulted, not just the few rich people who think, yes, a fancy project, and let's do it. Time wouldn't have been wasted. Money wouldn't have been wasted. The wasted money could have been used to tackle all the socio-economic problem we have in London alone. Look how many young people get killed on our street because of lack of opportunities, because of unaffordable homes. But yeah, we have money to waste on garden projects. Now, I'm only using what is close to me at home, because I see Britain, London, my home, and I see what happens every day, what we make wrong. You can imagine what we then get wrong in Africa, other parts of either East Africa, North Africa, because we don't listen to stakeholders. We don't, even when we say we listen, just to tick the box that we consult them. But the consultation doesn't mean anything, because if I say and listen to you as Professor Alam, and listen to you, Sister Mona, and then I listen to you, it means whatever you say, I'm going to consider it seriously, and I'm going to consider in my decision making. That's what it means. But if I don't take into account, then it doesn't mean anything. Does stakeholder mean anything to us? And that's the question. So if we really want to meet the development goal, then consultation is extremely important. Taking stakeholders, consulting them is extremely important. Taking their views into account is extremely important. Or can I even dare say, look at Ethiopia, for instance. Look at what is causing between the hydroelectric dam, which is being proposed by Ethiopia, and then the drama is causing in Sudan, but Egypt and other neighboring countries. Now, it's true, Ethiopia needs to build this dam for its economic development. But you see where importance of stakeholder engagement involvement is extremely important. We forgot that actually there are neighboring countries that rely on the water of River Nile. Now, if serious stakeholder engagement had taken place, no matter how long it takes, even any objections that may have emanated from that could have been resolved amicably, either at the local national, regional, or international level, because we have all these different international system in place to resolve this. Now, we're still on it. So sadly, it creates a nightmare for the neighboring countries such as Egypt, Sudan, and so on, who rely on River Nile for their water supply. So can you see, by Ethiopia solving one economic aspect of the sustainable development goal, economic development, through hydroelectric supply, sadly, they have also accidentally created the opposite for their neighboring countries, and enmity and making access to drinkable water supply to sustain livelihood interrupted, even made practically impossible because of the amount of water that they will need to fill the hydroelectric power generating system. So could adequate stakeholder engagement have lessened the level of hostility, opposition from the neighboring country? Perhaps yes. Can we learn a lesson from history? Now, I'm from Nigeria. I'm glad Professor Alam mentioned earlier. I'm from Nigeria. And I'm very privileged to be invited to speak here today. So thank you, Professor Alam. Thank you once again. Now, when I was young, when the project, the Kanji Dam, hydroelectric dam started in Nigeria in 1964, between 1964 and 1968, the cost of that dam was 209 million pounds, but that's immaterial because the Egypt and the Ethiopia one is costing between 4 and 6 billion is costing. You can see the difference. But the money is not the important thing now. What I learned is that Nigeria and Niger Republic had a dialogue when the dam was going to be built. And then when the dam was completed, the hydroelectric power station was completed, the Niger Republic benefits directly from the grid, or national grid of Nigeria, which supply electricity to Niger Republic. Even to the extent that we always joke that actually Niger Republic enjoy more electricity than Nigeria. Because if you go to Nigeria, make sure you have a generator. Because if you don't, well, if you are lucky you get electricity, you spend 2 weeks, probably lucky to get electricity for two hours a week, or you'll be lucky. So you see that. But the importance of what I'm trying to say is this: stakeholders, your neighboring country, the citizens, even when there's overflow, the farmlands around there are the stakeholders you need to engage. So through engagement, even in our relationship, by engaging with your partner, you understand what the issues. By men engaging with women, we understand what are the issues that are causing friction between us. By husband and wife, father and daughter and all of us engaging. So if I bring it to the lower level, we understand each other and we can then identify the issues, what is likely to cause friction between us, and then find ways to resolve it. Even where we have a sticking point, okay, let's leave that for now. Let's deal with the major one first, and then we come back to that later. It's only through engagement. So you now see the importance of engagement in everything, consultation, involvement in everything we do. And that's the essence of what I'm saying, that you cannot have a sustainable development without stakeholders, engagement, involvement. It's impossible. You may have it today. How do you sustain it over a period of time? And no wonder nothing works in Africa. I'm sorry to say, when you look at so many elephant projects, because one governor said, I'm the one who started it, I'm gonna be the one who finished it. We also learn in the Bible, forgive me, if those who are not Christian, that the person who builds the temple may not necessarily be who started the temple, the foundation may not necessarily be the one that will complete it. So therefore, what is important is for me to make sure the foundation I'm building is strong enough so that when somebody else comes, he or she can build on it. But the legacy I leave behind by building a strong foundation will be there for generations, to see. Unfortunately, we are not doing that. And the moment we keep on missing that very important point, I think sustainable development will be a nightmare. Will be something we just read in the textbook, but it doesn't have any application to our life. So therefore, it's important, I must say, when there's peace and mutual respect between both of us and the stakeholders, then obviously when we talk about sustainable development, then we'll be getting somewhere. So I think just of recent, Nigeria also offers some assistance to insurgency, Niger offers some assistance to Nigeria over insurgency. As you know, Boko Haram has been fighting in the northeast part of Nigeria. Because of that sense of neighborhood, friendship they have, Niger over, and also some other countries in the northeast part of Nigeria was able to help, support, and so on, because they are expertise in fighting, especially in that kind of terrain. So when you have good relationship with your neighbors, then it's very difficult even for enemy to come through there to come and attack you. So I'm talking in terms of the military aspect of it now. So therefore, it's very important. So you can see by having true and sustainable, stakeholders engagement and involvement, you can easily be able to build lasting peace in your area as well. So, but the question I want to ask is this: is war imminent between Ethiopia and the neighboring countries in relation to this hydroelectricity project? It's up to you to then think about that, because it's not for me to answer that, but because if we are not careful, it's probably an area we might expect something like that to happen in the near future. So imagine a breakdown of complete communication between those two countries. Don't be surprised if that's the end result of it. So I think if Ethiopia had conducted an intensive stakeholder engagement of all the parties involved, perhaps this problem could have been managed properly. So therefore, it's something we can learn from that. So which may also keep peace, a good neighborly relationship between Ethiopia and affected country. So what do I mean when I talk about stakeholder engagement? Dedication and sense of ownership is extremely important. Citizens' ownership, making sure they feel that sense of ownership, they own it, they feel important, they feel valued, men, women. Of course, even the government department that are going to deliver it, they need to talk to each other. You find some cases, even the two government, the tables are next to each other, they don't even talk to each other. I'm talking even this part of the world, the advanced part of the world. You can imagine Africa where communication, is very difficult. I'm talking about where there is no electricity, there even the phone, is there any landline or network? So you can see that even if you have phone, do you even have enough credit on your phone? Or do you even have, I find some staff, you'd be surprised, even in some countries whereby some staff actually have to buy toilet roll, to work. Though it's not even freely supplied, even where it's supplied, of course, that's not an issue. Some people actually steal them. So these are the kind of issue we need. So, we need to look at. So therefore, communication is extremely important. Of course, even political opposition as well, bring them along. Let them have a say. The lobbyists, bring them along. Let them have a say. Of course, by listening to all the different parties, all the different opinions, consulting them, you will know what their issues are. Men, women, young, old. You will know what the issues are. Neighboring countries, you know what the issues are and how to resolve them. And of course, the benefits of such is that early problems and objections will be identified and then obviously can be managed. Conflict identification management, project location, if it's not the right place to locate that project, forget about the dam for now. It could be anything at all, because sometimes our politicians, I want it in my village. Maybe your village is already well served. Maybe even my opponent's village is where they need it, because I just want to claim it. These are lessons we need to learn as people of diaspora. And these are what we need to share with our brothers and sisters. The politics, now I'm wearing my political hat now. Sometimes because my opposition doesn't mean everything they say is wrong. I remember when I grew up, my granddad used to say to me, when a mad person or a stupid person says something, actually a sensible person, a wise person will pick up something useful out of it. And I keep on every time, Therefore, I never dismiss anything. I don't have to agree with everything, but I'll listen. Then I'll then pick up what I want to pick from there. That's why it's good to talk. Even BT used to have that slogan some years back, it's good to talk. Of course, as long as it doesn't cost you much money. So, ladies and gentlemen, so this benefit of stakeholder engagement, obviously early conflict identification and resolution, financial management and sustainability, efficiency, viability, even vandalism, because when there's strong local opposition, vandalism will come. They want to destroy. I mentioned about war. There can be any accident that make sure, the dam can be, I'm not saying, but human beings, they always find ways to do their own. Imagine when you build something that is not supposed to be, people always vandalize it. But when you bring them along, that sense of ownership is ours. Even when they see somebody who wanted to attack it, they will defend it. Some people will defend with their life. That's why stakeholder involvement is extremely important. So therefore, and also showed sense of leadership as well. As I mentioned before, it's not being weak when you consult. It's not being weak when you change, and actually, we got it wrong. We're going to find a different way to do this thing. Unfortunately, we leaders, sometimes we think, all right, because it's from me, or because the opposition is from somewhere, somebody else, or the idea for somebody else. No, it has to be for me. No, actually, strong leadership also means accept you get it wrong. I'm sorry. That's why also even you minimize the sense of getting it wrong if you listen to people in the first place before you read that place. But if you keep on making the same mistake several times, then it's that weakness as well. So I hope, and I'm just going to use the Ethiopian Prime Minister as the reference point now. If you remember, before the current one, before he came to power, he actually, most of the countries around, if you remember, there was regional issues that time, neighboring countries. He made peace with them. And the area is now relatively peaceful now, as far as I know. But therefore, I think that's Shemose's sense of leadership in terms of Prime Minister. And I hope that same quality which he used at that time will be used again to resolve that problem which is now being generated through this hydroelectricity project, because you need maturity, and then you need to make sure you listen to your stakeholders, which are the neighboring countries. So therefore, I'm going to quickly round up because I don't know how many minutes Professor gave me. How many minutes have I got left so that I know how to? I can't hear you.
You have been doing well. Conclude. Take your time, no problem.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You're very generous.
Shame if we interrupt you, really.
Thank you, brother. So, so how do we make sure we have inclusive, sustainable development? I think, like having a town hall whereby you meet different communities who may be affected, men, women, young people, listen to them, will be useful. And we do it there, even at the local level. And I'm privileged that we are different now. So therefore, you may see me operating at the lowest level today, and middle, and then upper. It depends on where I find myself, even whether in the church or in the community. So therefore, I'm used to that. And we should also learn to do that. Don't underestimate any community, any member of it, whether men, women. So education is very important, because when we have that, then we can share, even they can share their concern with us and then see where we go from there. Of course, also builds local capacity as well. Because I always say, any development that doesn't take the people who are going to be directly affected along on that journey, it's not a development at all. And I've seen so many regeneration programs, especially in London, in my borough, and so on. And my people who have known me, I keep on banging on it. Any development that doesn't change people's life, no matter how many billions you spend there, I only judge the development by how people live, compare how people live yesterday, how they live today, and how they live tomorrow. If their tomorrow is worse than where they used to live to yesterday, then it's a shame. We need to look at ourselves. And it promotes diversity as well, inclusivity. Everybody, like sister was saying earlier on, everybody feel you are part of the journey. That sense of ownership, men, women, carried along, all community, neighboring countries, carried along is extremely important. Of course, also our human rights as well. It's part of respecting human rights of every one of us, of every citizen. It's very extremely important. It builds peace and harmony, promotes peace and harmony between the government and affected communities, promotes trust and respect between government and the stakeholders, because they know you take them seriously. Because for the fact that government consult the stakeholder, they feel respected. Of course, compensation, where a community, because I've seen government use the power they have, they just take over people's property. No, if people genuinely deserve to be compensated, that should be part of the overall discussion. But you can only know who is going to be affected, how it's going to affect them, and what are the financial implications of that, how are you going to deal with that? If you consult them, if you take them, engage them. So you see part of all that stakeholders engagement. Of course, so therefore, compensation will be extremely important. And also takes away issue around bribery and corruption as well. Because if you are open and honest, the community see what is going on. Allegation of bribery and corruption, accusation will be removed because they see what is going on as well. They see who's running the contract, who's going to lead the contract, and so on. So environmental sustainability, as I mentioned, at local, regional, and national level, whether medium or longer term, stakeholder engagement can help, to foster effective management of this. The rainforest in the Amazon in Brazil, and also the Niger Delta region of Nigeria will result in ecological disaster and the effect on local inhabitants as well. And just to give you an example of that. So you can see through stakeholder engagement, even when you made a mistake at the beginning, now you now see the result on the community. Then you start beginning to, okay, we are sorry, this has happened. How do we move from here? It's part of stakeholders engagement. They are the stakeholders, they are the affected communities. And of course, social and community cohesion. Because when you engage them, the fighting, sabotage will be removed because you are being open, you openly engage and involve them in development process, and you carry men, women, and all the stakeholders along. So it's very difficult for anyone to go and attack you because you've been open and honest with them. So conflict and self-interest management, make sure is in place. If there's conflict, how do we resolve it? So that mechanism needs to be there as well. And also promote complementarity as well. What do I mean by that? You see, there are some people, for instance, when a railway line, imagine they run haulage system, transport system, whereby they use trailers and so on, to help people carry their goods and services from one town to another, or even interstate or intra-country and so on. Now, if they then realize actually they're going to be a railway line, which means their livelihood will be affected. Unless you engage all those people that will be affected when those new developments are going to take place. Okay, we know it's going to affect you, or tell us how it's going to affect you so that we can see how you can build into the whole process. But unless that conversation takes place, then there'll be a problem. Some people's livelihood will be lost forever. And then it can cause all kinds of social and economic problem. And that is why it's extremely important that those who may be affected, who have self-interest to be protected, need to be taken along. Even if that job is going to be lost, that line of profession is going to be lost, if they see the bigger picture of the new one that might replace it, and how they can be compensated if needs be, obviously that community will carry along. Those line of people, whether men, women, or a professional group, will be happy to support that kind of initiative. But if you fail to carry them along, obviously, we know what's going to happen. And capacity building of local people. By engaging the community, we will know who are ready within our own community, professionals we have, that we can use for this project. because there's no point getting everything from the expatriate, from over outside the country, when you have millions of your own people unemployed. I mean, look at Nigeria, for instance. Millions of graduates unemployed. No wonder some of them get engaged in fraud and all these activities. Well, it's not an excuse, but when development are going on, and then you allow people from different parts of the world to bring almost every staff to that country, obviously it disenfranchises and also, prevents, people from benefiting from that project. So carrying the stakeholders along with you is extremely important. And I'm just going to, to conclude on this. The idea of ownership of the project must belong to the local people based on lived experience of their lives and how project will alleviate their suffering, solve the problem. Project design, the active involvement in the project design is extremely important as well. Consultation, as I mentioned before, transparency is extremely important. Accountability is extremely important. Checks and balances to make sure, there is not just me who make all decisions. There are people who checks, okay, am I making the right decision? And then if I'm not making the right decision, is it me who spend the money? If I'm the one spending the money, it's also me who approve the money. I might as well just approving and spending money myself. And by the time they realize I'm not spending the money on the right thing, all the money is gone. So that's what I mean by checks and balances. Then you find me giving all the money to my friends and girlfriend, boyfriend, or sister, brother. That happens a lot in Africa. And of course, flexibility and adaptability. Through stakeholders' involvement, any likely problem that may happen either before, during, or after the project will have been identified. And then, of course, if it's not identified at the beginning, while the project is in progress, if something then comes up that will be integral to the, to the conclusion of that project, then if it needs to be factored in, if you don't build some degree of flexibility and adaptability into it, then you have problems. So it's always important. And that's why sometimes those of our people who are involved in this, in the discussion on projects, on contracts, and so on, it has people of integrity, people of knowledge, people of expertise. Even some people, for the fact that maybe they have all the letters after their names, like me and a few others, does not mean we probably be the right people to be around the table. Because there are some people, they may not have all these qualifications, but their expertise and experience is beyond just the letters after our name. So we need to look at that. So therefore, and we should also remember, what works in UK may not necessarily work in Kenya, Sudan, Ethiopia, or even indeed Nigeria. So we should not bring something because it works somewhere else. Therefore, it's going to work in our own backyard, in our own town, in our own city, in our own village. No, let's localize. If we get an idea somewhere, okay, how does it work in our own? Let's just go come and plant it, because we see so many projects. We find it because it worked perfectly well over there, and we bring it to our own community, and it failed woefully, and we'll have wasted a lot of money. So therefore, it's therefore imperative that we ensure no community feels left behind, because that's the essence of community engagement, community involvement, which obviously ensures that sustainable development takes place. And that's the essence of any good stakeholder engagement and involvement in development initiatives. And without taking those carefully, thinking through them and planning them methodically, and put checks and balances in place, and making sure reviews always take place at every stage of the development, then I think sustainable development will be a nightmare. But it can't be, shouldn't be. Why can't we just make sure women, young, old, youth, they are part of the journey? Thank you. Thank you.
But thank you so much. Even I can see people clapping to you from different screens. Thank you very, very much. This has been a wonderful. And I'm happy that people have been patient with me. They didn't ask me, because engagement is critical, and we have papers yesterday, and we're going to put them all together. And also, just to echo what you said, while we're getting the third speaker, the stakeholder engagement is critical, and you're rightly so when you give the example of the Renaissance Dam and others. But it's also part of the concept when we submit this to the UNESCO. We said to them, because in technology transfer, one key issue we always mention is end user considerations. So the person who is eventually going to use the technology, you need to have lots of consideration to his or her ability, the timing. And that end user considerations can only be achieved if you have stakeholders engagement. So you engage with them. And that was the reason we raised the issue that with the diaspora, they have that plus, we call it a plus, because they can engage much better, understand the end user consideration in Africa, because they are British, but they know the culture there. So thank you very much, Sunny. Give me on the ground, what do you want him to do?
Okay. Number one, if we take equality seriously, then the contribution of everyone, whether man or woman, a disabled person, or whether we come from religious background or none, or young or old, the contribution of everyone should be allowed to flourish. And when you deny a woman or a child the opportunity to contribute, we are losing, we are missing. And I said that, earlier during my presentation. So coming back to the question you asked, I remember, because I wanted to have a woman leader. In the past 2 leadership elections, the one that brought Jeremy Corbyn in, I voted for a woman leader. Of course, she didn't win. And the second recent one, the more recent one, I voted for a woman leader as well. Not because for tokenism or anything. I just believe we have capable women out there that we're supporting. However, you can quote me, you may not quote me on this. I do not believe, because in my party, for instance, they believe this position needs to be reserved for men, this position needs to be reserved for women. I don't believe in that. And I'll tell you why. I don't believe in that because I believe, if you remember what I said before, women don't need empowerment. We just need to give them space to flourish. They're already empowered. So therefore, when you say reserve this position for women, even for a Black person, as we do in this country, all right, this for Black, this for Asian, this for this. It's total rubbish, my opinion, to be honest with you. You know what? We are failing. That's why we haven't doing that. If we are in a very open society where whether you're Muslim or Christian, man or woman, young or old, the qualities you have, you bring it on the table can be recognized and utilized to flourish. We won't need to do all that. It's because we failed as human beings. That's why we notice, oh, we don't have enough women there. Oh, we don't have enough men there. Imagine if in the room, out of 10 people we want, 7 of them are women. Why not be majority? All of them women. But also, conversely, if it's majority of them are men, why do you have to say simply because? It's because majority of them are men. Therefore, let's go and find a woman that is not ready or a young person that is not ready to plug that hole. However, the problem with us is why we can't find a woman that is ready for that position? Exactly. Because we are failing. Because we didn't consciously prepare them for leadership. Because we excluded them for a long time. Just the same principle applies to our young people as well, or disabled people, because we don't recognize them as integral part and parcel of the society. Because it is where stakeholder I was talking about coming. If we are planning anything, whether in terms of leadership, in terms of government, and we consciously think about women, think about men, think about young people, think about disabled people, our road will be fit for purpose. Disabled people who are on wheelchair, they won't need to cross on the main road before they can go, because we're already consciously planning they can use their wheelchair on it. The same thing with women. If we consciously plan that a woman has a role in government, in the department, on committees.
Yes, absolutely. And
then we will encourage them to come in. So that's where I stand, Professor.
Thank you very, very much, Sunny.
بنحلم بفضاء أوسع، بنحلم بزمن أجمل، بلاد ميلاد، بلاد ميلاد.